porch or in the shadows of the garden, he would look over at Lorna and smile, and she would always smile back. But what has happened since then? He often wonders whether he has maybe upset her or embarrassed her in some way, or if it is simply the fact that he, Elson, is so indicative of everything that she and her friends despise. It has been a month since they've done anything but meet at Elson's apartment after work, and even when Elson has inquired about her friends, Lorna has been evasive. They are always too busy, she tells him, working on their projects or organizing some event or protesting some local politician. One night earlier that week he had stopped by her apartment after work to drop off a sweater she had left at his place. He had not told her he was coming, but he had expected she'd be happy to see him. He had knocked on her door several times, and when no one had answered, he had stood there for a long time and listened. Through the clear glass window he could hear voices coming from the other side of the apartment, laughing. He stood there for a while longer, listening, and then knocked again. After a while the voices grew quiet, and a light went off in the kitchen. He wondered what to do, whether to stand there and wait, humiliate them all when they eventually came out, or whether it would be better just to leave. Finally, he had decided to drop the sweater off in the doorway and leave. The following night, when Lorna came over to his place, she denied ever hearing him knock. She claimed that they were planning a rally about something or other and that they were probably too busy, too engrossed in their project to hear him. Elson had shaken his head and smiled. "Whatever," he'd said, borrowing an expression from Lorna herself, an expression that she often used when she wanted to dismiss him. And then he'd stood up and walked into the kitchen for a beer. Now, sitting in the dim-lit glow of the Brunswick Hotel bar, Elson finds himself wondering whether he should have handled it differently, or whether it would have even mattered. He looks over toward the bartender and motions at his glass. A moment later, the bartender walks over and fills it. He's a young man, this bartender, and fit. He reminds him of some of the boys that his son Richard used to bring over to the house. "Looks like it's going to break," the bartender says, nodding toward the window. "What?" "The storm," he says. "Looks like it's going to be a bad one." Elson stares out the window and realizes that the sky has darkened, the clouds from the east moving in over the city like a fog. "Good," he says. "Huh?" "I'm glad. You looking for a storm?" "You could say that." The bartender stares at him quizzically, then smiles. "I've seen you here before, haven't I? Last Tuesday." "Maybe," Elson says. "I come here a lot." The bartender nods. "You know, I actually just started here last week." He smiles at him. "Just moved down here from Austin." Elson nods again. He can tell that this bartender is looking for a conversation, maybe even wanting to ask him something personal, so he quickly turns away, staring at the wall on the far end of the bar until the bartender finally leaves. When he comes back a few minutes later, Elson pulls out his wallet. "How much do I owe you?" he asks. Later, as he stands outside the front lobby of the Brunswick Hotel, waiting for his car, Elson lights a cigarette and watches the sky grow dark, the palm trees in the distance swaying hypnotically in the wind. He wonders why he acted the way he had at the bar, and whether or not he has ruined the Brunswick Hotel forever. He looks across the street and thinks of Lorna, and realizes that the promise of the night has suddenly vanished. He wants to go home and sleep it off. The valets are putting on rain parkas with the hotel logo printed on the back, and when his car comes up the ramp, they all swarm in around him, holding out their arms, swinging an umbrella above his head. He tips them generously and takes off, realizing it might be a long time before he returns here again. Outside the edge of downtown Houston, he stops at a light and checks his messages. He is hoping for a call from Lorna, hoping for a last-minute cancellation or maybe a change of plans, but instead what he sees is a long list of messages.